let's talk about data stuff a little bit. I know
Okay.
you have some.
Well, are you going to get that guy to show us how to do it?
Oh, the
What
AM
was his name
solo.
again? Yeah.
Yeah.
I have some AIM data in here somewhere, and I can show you.
Yeah, it's probably mine from like 5 years ago.
Yeah, it looks terrible.
Thanks.
Which part do you want to see?
I think we talked about that cool stuff about the transition from right to left at the top of the corkscrew entry.
Yeah, I can show you some of that, like what it looked like before we kind of fixed it. Same.
Yeah, I think you should do like a before and what you saw, and then do the after and kind of talk a little bit about what you did to resolve that and make it better so Cam can go and.
Yeah, I'd have to basically tell you a little bit about the tables and not show you the tables. You follow what I'm saying?
Okay.
But I can show you the data, some of it.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll show you the torque control stuff first that we were asking about, how the throttle is applied versus what the rider does.
Yes.
Okay, let me show you some of that. So
Okay.
let me see here. Put on my binoculars and
binoculars. Nice.
Yeah, share the screen. Let's see here. That one. Okay. You good? You see it?
I see it.
And so let's first start with a little bit of
lots of squiggly lines.
Yes. So here is, so you see where this is right here, exit of turn 5?
Yes.
And it's kind of going uphill, right? So the bike's really wheelie a lot over there without showing you all the cut and stuff it does. So this is Cameron going in. You can see the red here is his brake pressure.
Yes.
So this is the basically before, right there would be before like 45, 48 degrees. So right there, if you're looking at the lean angle here or over here, he's like at 49 degrees. So let me slide it over so you kind of see it. We'll do the whole entry and exit of turn 5.
Okay.
So he comes in at turn 5, boom, boom. He's downshifting. Those blips are downshifts.
Okay.
And then he's like at 14 degrees, so it's fairly in line. You can see the separation from the rear wheel. The blue is the front wheel, and the yellow is the rear wheel. So that separation is the amount of engine braking you have. So the rear wheel is actually skidding at a little slower pace than the front wheel is going, correct? And so as he slides into the corner, he starts to lean it over pretty hard on the brake still. So there he's still getting 8 bars of braking. So up here is like right about 10 and a half bars, almost 11 bars.
Right.
Then he starts to feather it in to about 10 bars of braking. And then he just keeps rolling off the brake as he rolls into the corner. You can see the lean angle over here going up. So he's almost at 50 degrees. And right when he gets to, let's say this is on his knee, he's still pulling the lever pretty good. So he's still holding it at 2 bars all the way to the apex. And then that's the brake release, and that's the throttle pickup. So you see that section there, brake to throttle?
Yes.
Red to green. That's what I call coasting. Real good riders, that thing will almost be 0, like he is. Starting up riders, they'll be releasing the brake like this and coasting, like their knee to the apex.
So that gap right there would be a lot bigger if I was the one.
Right, right. So he gets the apex there, and it's basically a face, right?
Yeah.
And he hasn't even gotten full lean angle yet because he's hitting the face of that turn 5, and then he starts to open the throttle. And then as he opens the throttle, lean angle gets even greater. So right there he is, almost 63 degrees, right? Yeah. Which is an estimation. He could be a little higher, a little less. And then the green trace is his throttle hand. So as he opens the throttle, the blue trace is what the engine is doing, the engine's throttle. So all this stuff here is what the engine does to control how much power you apply to the front end.
So that line across the top is his hand on the top.
So he goes from there to full throttle. So from the apex, or from before the apex, he's already applying the throttle because the apex is right there at the slowest part. So as he opens the throttle to full, the throttle chases him. And what we do is, the trick is to give him as much throttle as we can without upsetting the chassis. So over in this red trace here is a estimated front suspension position. And the reason why that's estimated is some of it is real and some of it is calculated off the pitch of the motorcycle. Okay. And so that tells you how much it's wheeling. Yeah. So it's not wheeling at all coming off of here. It's just kind of skimming along the ground at 4 millimeters. And then he's full throttle, and as he shifts gears, you can see the power keeps getting applied more and more and more because you're losing torque by the every shift. You lose torque through the sprockets, right? So right here it starts to wheelie as he starts to apply more and more throttle. So you can see where the front wheel slows down right there, and the rear wheel is still kind of going over the curbing. Well, he kind of skims the curbing there. You don't really go on the curbing there because the curbing falls off a little bit. And then as it starts to wheelie, you can see this number here starts getting to -14.
What is that?
That's the estimated front travel. So that's looking at your forks as if they were infinitesimally long.
Ah, okay.
You know what I mean? Like you had infinite travel extending. So once you get to 0, you don't know where you're at. But then the IMU takes over and says, okay, you were here, so we estimate you're here. And based on that, it applies a certain amount more wheelie cut.
Okay.
And brings the bike back in. So there's a little bump right there. So he gets a little bit more wheelie than we'd like. It's like 46 millimeters, so a little over 1.5 inches, you know, and then it comes back online and then it continues up the hill. So that's how the power is applied versus some cut, which you're not able to see here. Some torque reduction and cut. So then we work our way over to where you were talking about. Oops, too far. Over here into turn 8. Right, so this is him coming up the hill. Same thing. We apply the throttle kind of gradually.
So is this the before or the after?
This is. Let me see what lap that is. This is his fastest lap. You want to see the before or the after first?
I think we should take the before so we can see what it was that you saw, and then we can talk a little bit about what you did to resolve it and compare.
Okay, so earlier on he was complaining about a push in there that we had to kind of analyze and see what was happening.
Yeah.
So if you look at here where the rear wheel is skidding going into turn 8. Yeah. Well, let's first back up and tell you how he goes in the corner, right? So he comes out of turn 6 and then he arcs left, and the lean angle out in 6 is like 60 degrees or something. And as he arcs left, he kind of reduces lean angle. You guys see it here? Yeah. Reduce the lean angle. And then he flips right as he's going left. He flips right into 7. That's what this V is here. It goes from 24.5 to 0 over to here. And so as he flips right, he grabs the brakes and starts back shifting down into 7. So 7 isn't really a corner, but just kind of the entry into 8. Right? And you're coming off kind of a little rise, you know. That's where you get kind of a wheelie right here where the front wheel's slowing down again. But it's not really a big wheelie, because you only have 6 millimeters or so off the ground, you know, so it's just basically less than 1/4 inch off the ground. And so then you go into this dip, you flip right. So that's what this is V is when it goes to 0 and starts to lean right. So when he leans right, you get a little bit of a push right there. Yeah. Where the rear isn't skidding anymore. And then as he leans right before he flips left again, you get a little bit of push right there too. You see that little hump right there? Yeah. Where the rear's not skidding anymore. And then that V is right before he flips down the hill going into the corkscrew, and then he flips again coming out of the corkscrew. So that make any sense to you? Yeah. Yeah. So you see this little trace where the rear wheel is? I could probably put it up, but there's all kinds of other channels you can look at, which is the percentage of slip. The percentage of slip, you're going to see that it goes down in this little area, but you can kind of, deduct that when these things are together, the slip isn't that great. When these things are apart, the slip is pretty great. So then as we work on that, you know, and we play around with the tables, and we end up, let's say, in race 3 on his fastest lap. Now you can see as he goes into 7, and he flips right to go into 7. Right. You see, as soon as he flips and grabs the brakes, you have a nice smooth skidding of the rear wheel. Yes. And that little hump right there, where he flips from right to left, is gone. Yeah. It's very linear. And so what he was experiencing was, as he goes down into 7, and he's grabbing the brakes real hard, and he's skidding the rear tire, trying to get as much possible braking as possible, you know, get him into that corner. He would, as he went over the top of the tire, when he went from right to left, as he was braking, he would get a little bit of a push because he got on the fat part of the tire. You follow what I'm saying? So the bike
Yeah,
actually accelerate because
accelerate.
yeah, because the wheel's going to fairly constant RPM. It's trying to slow down. As you get over the top, the diameter changes and the bike actually accelerates.
Yeah.
So what we do in the tables is as the bike goes into this lean angle, we crank down the engine braking harder and then release it again. So you follow what I'm saying? Until you get a nice linear shot. And we kept doing that, and he kept going faster and faster and faster. And why would he go faster? Because we were doing this. Because he's no longer thinking, why would this one corner help him on the rest of the racetrack?
Right.
He's no longer thinking, man, I'm really getting pushed into turn 8 when he goes through 9 or 10, and the similar thing was happening in 2. Because in 2, you would, anyway, let me finish my thought. So he's no longer thinking about what's happening in turn 8. Instead of when he gets past turn 8, he goes, man, the bike worked really well on turn 8. So he nails 9 and 10 and all those other ones much better because he's in a better frame of mind.
Right.
You follow what I'm saying? So
yeah.
just
So
getting one corner better gets you kind of a little more confident, and that makes you nail all the other corners better, even if it is just that one corner.
Yeah, you're making the bike easier for him to ride, and then his confidence goes up, and he's able to ride even faster, right?
Yeah. So you get a little bit of the same thing in turn 2, where you get this V. It isn't a standard corner because turn 2 you get out of 1, and you brake while you're turning, and then you lean a little bit the other direction, and then you brake again. You follow what I'm saying? You straighten the bike out, so it isn't a constant from here to here. It isn't one bend. You get a little V. So whenever you get this V, you're getting on the bigger part of the tire, and the bike's accelerating. So as you can see, as he's downshifting in here, as you downshift, the rear wheel stays kind of together because it's pretty high speed. And then when he gets to the V, you actually get a little bit of the rear tire helping him slow down and getting the bike put in a position. And then it smooths out, and he gets the apex, and he picks up the throttle. Once again, his braking, which is here, this red, we're putting, 10 or 11 bar right here, and it tapers off all the way to the apex. You see that? The red and the throttle are exactly the same.
So he's trailing the brakes all the way to the apex.
He is wasting no time. What does that help with? It helps with reducing chatter. When you coast, you open up all the possibilities of chatter, and you're also wasting no time on coasting, either slowing down or you're accelerating. And that's pretty great because that is a 180-degree corner. A lot of guys will think, oh man, I'm just going to coast all the way through that thing. Well, he doesn't coast at all. He brakes all the way to it and opens the throttle again. How does he do a 23-1? These are the ways you do a 23-1. Wow. And that example is everywhere around the racetrack.
Talking to Sven, when he was explaining that to me, he was saying that, he kind of used the Keith Code $10 analogy.
Keith Code what?
Yeah, the Keith Code's twist of the wrist thing. It's about the $10, the proverbial $10 of riding.
I don't know that book.
Basically, it's like,
is that like does it come in the back part of Scientology book or?
I don't know about all that, dude. There's something about there that was like
Hubbard's book.
You're spending parts of your, you're spending parts of your $10 on that little hump in the data, right? And so you're taking away that, and he still has more. He has that rest of that $10 to spend somewhere else on the track, basically. So it's just.
I know Paul Harrell spent his $10. He turned them into ones and went down to the.
God damn it!
Strip joint in Vegas.
Jesus Christ, Richard.